That's over here. It says recorder. We should talk to I'll figure it out tomorrow.
Right sitting rotary here, chamber here.
Job work.
Yeah, they're around here somewhere. You want to invite to my event?
Oh, I do. I do. You talked about it at Rotary and let me know how much.
Hopefully, I will mention it again later. April 29th.
Yeah. That's something.
Yeah. Register more than one ticket, and I'll be super happy. We only sell 200 tickets, so I've got 200 tickets.
That would be colossal.
It's going to be an absolute house races, casino, chips. We have so many prizes. We have so many amazing prizes. Yeah. Cheryl needs to come too. She's just starting to figure these things out.
That's what I've been.
Good afternoon, candidates, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. On behalf of the Blue Springs Chamber of Commerce and the Examiner, I'd like to welcome you all to today's forum, the candidate forum. We are pleased and honored to have the candidates with us today, as well as each of you. I want to also express our deep gratitude to the Central Jackson County Fire Protection District for allowing us to host this event here today. Let's give them a round of applause. I'm Chad Smith. I am the chairman of the board of directors for the Blue Springs Chamber of Commerce. You may have noticed a table outside in the hall when you came in with some of the candidate materials on them. That table is provided for them to provide political material for you. Please take a moment to look at that, as well as you can provide additional handouts following the forum. Over the past few weeks, the Blue Springs Chamber of Commerce has asked our members to send in questions for the candidates, and they have. We've received many questions, actually, and some of those will be posed to our candidates this afternoon. We would also like to hear from you, so if you have a question for the candidates, please write that on the note card. You should have some note cards there at your desk. After you finish writing the question, pass it to the end of the row, and one of the chamber staff will collect those afterwards. We just do ask that you keep your questions to pose your question to all the candidates and not to any one specific candidate, okay? And with that, no further ado, I'll turn this over and introduce our moderator this afternoon, Mr. Jeff Fox with the Examiner.
Thank you, Chad. Good afternoon to everybody, and before we hear from the candidates, I wanted to outline the format for today's candidates forum. We are going to ask that no video, including Facebook Live, be taken during the event. We are videotaping the event today, thanks to the technology available here at the Central Jackson County Fire Protection Training Center. Their technology also allows us to broadcast this meeting live, so we are doing that as well. And the green light above tells me that that's happening, so hello to everybody at home. The video of today's forum will be uploaded to the Chamber's YouTube channel, hopefully by tomorrow evening, by Friday evening. As Chad said, this event is co-sponsored by the Blue Springs Chamber of Commerce and the Examiner. The reason we sponsor this event is so that Chamber members and Examiner readers can make informed decisions at the ballot box. We ask that everyone be respectful of others in speech and behavior today, so that each candidate can provide information about himself or herself and answer the questions that are asked. There are two areas on the April 5th ballot that we will visit today. There are 2 school board seats up for election in Blue Springs, and there are 3 city council seats up for election. There are 4 candidates running for the 2 seats on the Blue Springs Board of Education. We have them all here with us today. In ballot order, the candidates are Rhonda Gilstrap, Bobby Hawk, Nick Blease, and Will Hecht. We also have 5 candidates here running for the open for seats on the Blue Springs City Council. We have one candidate for District 1, Dr. Galen Erickson. That race is unopposed. Dr. Erickson is here tonight. We have 2 candidates in District 2, and my eyes are getting the better of me here, but it's I said it right a minute ago. I'm going to get it wrong now. It's Anthony Bigliaturo, and Chris Levisay. Both are here tonight. We also have 2 candidates in District 3 present. In District 3, there are 2 names on the ballot, Taylor Beller and Susan Culpepper. We're going to first hear from school board candidates, then city council candidates. This time I'd like to ask the 4 school board candidates, come on down. They've already done that. We're already ahead of the game. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for his or her opening statements. After the opening statements by the candidates, we will have a question and answer session. We ask that all candidates keep answers to questions to no more than 1 minute. So 2 minutes to open and then 1 minute answers. Both the opening remarks and answers to the questions will be timed. We have a timer right here. We ask that the candidates please honor the established time allotments. So let's begin. We have a timekeeper with a bell located here on the front row. Brad Draper with Watchdog Advisory. Raise your hand, ring the bell. That's it. It means you're done. That's what that means. The timekeeper has signs that'll help out the candidates. It'll count you down in 30-second increments. In other words, minute and a half, minute and 30 seconds, etc. When your time is complete, the stop sign will be displayed and the bell will ring. I want to thank you in advance for honoring these time commitments. We drew for the order in which these 4 candidates would speak, and they're actually sitting in that order. So we will have a first opening statement of 2 minutes from Bobby Hawk.
Well, I'm Bobby Hawk. Test 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. There we go. Bobby Hawk, and currently a member of the Board of Education. I want to thank you for being here today. Those that are watching online, thank you as well. Jeff, thanks for moderating. Laura and her team, thanks for putting this together. My journey in the Blue Springs School District actually started out in 1990 at William Yates Elementary, where I started there as a 4th grade student. My parents were in the middle of a divorce. We moved up, lived with my grandparents, and I had no idea the significance of them living just on the east side of Lee Summit Road in the Blue Springs School District, but yet an Independence address. That would prove out over the next 3 years. Dr. Boyce Spears, my principal, we spent a lot of time together. We co-principaled out of his office, and my 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade teacher really made an impact through some pivotal years. In fact, I believe they did trauma-informed care before we did trauma-informed care. And as I progressed through the school district, it really made a mark on my life, the people especially. Moving back here, I have a daughter who's in 6th grade at Delta Woods. I'm an incoming kindergartner. I'm a pastor in the community. I also am working on my doctorate in organizational leadership, and again was elected 3 years ago to my first full term on the board. It's been a privilege to serve alongside my other 6 board members. We've had a challenging time in the past 3 years, but together I think we've navigated, and the district is doing well. We're continually ranked number 1, and it is an honor to be just a very, very small part of that, and I hope to continue to be part of that. So I ask for your vote on April 5th, and we'll be available afterwards if you have any questions. I would love to answer anything that we're not able to answer here. So thank you again for being here today.
Well, hello, my name is Rhonda Gilstrap, and I would like to also thank the Chamber and the Examiner for organizing this event, this forum, and providing the community an opportunity to submit questions and concerns. And it sounds like Bobby, my journey began just as our oldest of 4 stepped through the doors of Cordell Mason. And my heart desired to be involved, volunteer to help teachers, build relationships, and make a difference. And I have had the opportunity to serve in many leadership roles, PTA presidents of different schools, PTA council president, as well as chair of the CAC. I was content there doing that. There were no aspirations of running for the board. And then only when a vacancy occurred on the board was I asked by many in the community to consider serving, and so I did. I have diligently worked to earn all levels of board member certification. Some required, some are completely voluntary. But we ask our educators to better themselves through professional development. We as board members should do the same and lead by example. I've had the honor to be elected to other education-based boards, cooperating school districts of Greater Kansas City, Missouri School Boards Association, just to name a few, and was very honored to be elected by board members all across the state to all officer positions of Missouri School Boards Association, and I just concluded my role as past president of MSBA. I share a bit of history because those opportunities allowed me to gain a deeper knowledge, grow in my role, and enhance my ability to contribute in a very positive manner. The past 2 years have been unprecedented. We've weathered the storm of a pandemic. Our entire staff moved mountains to ensure students adjust and thrive. We had to pivot many times, but the goal was always to keep students in school. So it's my hope that you will allow me to continue this journey and to have eyes to, ears to hear, listen to the needs of students, staff, parents, and community, eyes to see the vision of our leadership and administration, and feet to forge the path ahead. So thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Nick Levies. I have 2 students in the school district at Chapel Lakes in the 4th and 1st grade. I'm also the husband of a former Blue Springs school district teacher who now sits on the executive board of the Chapel Lakes Elementary PTA. Professionally, I'm a CPA, and I supervise a team of 4 auditors. We audit businesses ranging from small shops to multi-billion-dollar companies. Formerly, I was a Teamsters union rep and spent many years representing those that I served. I think diversity is a strength. And when you look at any board, any group, the different skill sets that everybody brings in adds to that strength, the overall strength of the board. We have 7 unique individuals who each bring their own skill set, and I believe the professional diversity that I bring will add value to our board. I would love your vote on April 5th. Again, I'm Nick Levies. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Will Hecht, obviously, running for the position of school board member, just like that. I have 4 kids in the district. They're going to range from, currently they're pre-K all the way up to 7th grade. So obviously I'm very kind of invested in the district. I have a kind of strong interest and desire to make sure that we keep kind of being as good as we have been. We're definitely one of the largest districts in Missouri. And because of that, I mean, we have a very diverse population that we need to make sure that we're kind of paying attention to and making sure that they're feeling heard and served. Kind of like Nick, I'm an accountant, and so I'm used to looking at large amounts of data. I'm used to looking for kind of patterns. I'm used to looking for kind of different ways of looking at things, making sure things kind of line up right. And my goal is to use that kind of passion, that skill set, to be able to kind of bring my perspective to the board, to make sure that we're kind of doing as much as we can to make the best decisions that we can, to make sure that our school district kind of stays on top and continues to improve. Yeah, kind of went off the script I had, but thank you very much. And again, my name is Will Hecht.
All right. Thank you, candidates, for those. Well, I'm told it picks me up. I can't hear, but I'm told I can be heard, so I'll speak up and make sure that's true. Thank you, candidates, for your opening remarks. We'll stick with that same order, but we'll change who goes first every time, so we kind of change the rotation. So, Rhonda, this first question will go to you, and then on down the line back to Bobby on this end. These questions, again, I'll remind you, come from the floor this evening and from questions submitted in advance. The first one, again, first to Rhonda Gilstrap, is what do you think is the best way that the Blue Springs School District can prepare students for future jobs?
Oh, that's an exciting question. We are First of all, I want to thank the community for supporting the bond issue, because that is allowing us to convert the freshman center that's currently what we have housing the Blue Springs High School freshmen. That will allow us to change that to the Dr. Annette Seago in Career and Innovation Center, which we have so many opportunities and so many programs that are going to be offered through that. We already have many in the basement of the freshman center, and so you can connect with the district to see all of those programs. I won't take all the time to share the number of programs. We're also it's exciting to join the K-12 initiative of real-world learning that we have been able to do as a district just in the last year, and partnering with real-world learning with the Kauffman Center. And that is an exciting opportunity for our students. And I'm told to stop, so I'll stop.
So I think our district does a fantastic job of educating our students. I think we have a great opportunity as the freshman center gets transitioned over to the Innovation and Career Center to really prepare students for other type of jobs, right? Not all of our students are going to follow the path to college. One of the things that I would love to see is for our district to reach out to local contractors and to local labor unions and really see if they'd like to partner with us to come up with ideas of how to expose our students to the construction trades, because they can have fantastic lives, they can make a fantastic living with those jobs. And I think if we expose our students who may not choose that path to college early on, they can choose a trade that might fit them and suit them extremely well. So I think there's lots of opportunities moving forward there, and I hope we act on them.
Yeah, for the most part, I mean, looking at kind of the current, I mean, there's many different lists, but looking at the list of the current most in-demand jobs, they range from only requiring a high school diploma all the way up to requiring advanced degrees. And so, I mean, obviously, trying to only plan for jobs and careers that require degrees, I mean, it's doing a great disservice to our students, because not everyone is going to have the desire to do that. Not everyone's even going to have the means to do that necessarily. So making sure that we're kind of keeping our eyes wide open to see where all the different opportunities are, but then also making sure that we're kind of listening to the students and the parents to keep in mind that sometimes the best job for someone is going to be what they're passionate about. And that's going to be a little bit different for everyone, but keeping our kind of eyes open and our minds open to make sure we're accommodating as many people as we can to accomplish that.
In an effort to avoid redundancy, the Career and Innovation Center is very important. I think we need to continue the partnerships that we already have with CTC. We have a lot of partnerships in trades and things that are going on that are important, and I think we expand on those new partnerships. And a lot of the job shadowing, internships, the programs that are in place, we continue to put in place our partnerships with you, community members, and it benefits our students. Every student having the option to have a career-ready credential of some type, some certificate when they graduate high school, gives them a step up on other students their age, and that's the goal, is that they can be able to enter, if they choose, without going into the college route, that they can enter with a step up. They're advanced compared to their other peers in other school districts. So continuing the partnerships with trades, construction, some of the things that are already existing, what we have, as Rhonda mentioned, that's already going in our own facility, and then that's only about 10% of that building. So it's exciting, all of the new things we can do, and then the advanced partnerships we can develop with you, the community. That's what I'm excited about. So.
Right, next question goes first to Mr. Blees. It's a fair amount of ground to cover in 1 minute, but here we go. COVID-related issues have consumed a great deal of time over the last 3 school years. What is your view of how the Blue Springs School District handled COVID-19 protocols? Do you feel that the district should have, 1, been in person last year as was done, or 2, used a hybrid model as many did? Second, what do you think? Do you think the district's masking policies for the most recent school year have been appropriate.
Okay, a lot there.
There's a lot.
Okay, so for 2020, I think the district did a fantastic job. I was a little skeptical when we did not have the hybrid model. We chose virtual option because our son has severe asthma, and we wanted to make sure that no matter what, he was good to go. The district did a great job in 2020. This year, I don't think we did as good of a job. I think when you have a high stakes situation, it requires a high level, a highly, decision-making process has to be a high level there. I think we should have had doctors, parents, and teachers on an advisory committee to discuss what mitigation strategies we needed. When do we mask? When do we not mask? Have those levels set, predetermined, discuss those with parents so there's no confusion as far as when we are going to mask and when we aren't. But I would have liked to have seen myself as a parent a more open decision-making process that would have involved medical professionals.
So I truly believe that, people do kind of the best that they can at the time. It was obviously not a situation that we had found ourselves in before, and so there wasn't really a whole bunch of experience that we could have drawn from. It's really easy to be able to kind of look back in hindsight and say, well, we should have done this, or we should have done that, or kind of criticize what was done, or what wasn't done. Much like what Nick just said, I think having some kind of concrete kind of thresholds would have done a lot to help kind of reassure parents that things were being done, that we were consulting with kind of professionals and experts in those fields. Just because, like I said in my opening statement, I'm an accountant. I'm a father of four. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an immunologist or a virologist. So it's not kind of super easy to kind of make some of those statements and kind of be able to make everyone happy about it.
Well, there's nothing more exciting than building the plane while flying it, and that's what we did. And honestly, I'll be honest, I'm proud of our board, I'm proud of our administration, I'm proud of our staff, parents, students, and community. Unprecedented times, we navigated it the best we could. I believe when the county had a mandate to keep masks on this past year, we ended that 2 weeks before the end of school because the county ended it 2 weeks before the end of school. We started school with a mask mandate, the county ended it in November. We ended it as well. Our goal the entire time as a Board of Education, we were unanimous on every decision related to masks and protocols, was to keep kids in front of teachers as best we could. We're the largest school district that I know of in the state of Missouri that had in-person learning the entire year, the first year of the pandemic. We wanted to continue that. We found that we were sending 24 out of 25 kids home to quarantine that were not getting sick. And that's unfortunate. That's a 2-week gap in learning. And so when the mask mandate ended, we decided that we would follow that. We followed that since. We have since had conversations with legislators to ask them to let certain things be in local control. But I'm proud of the way we handled it. Was it perfect? No. But can I stand behind it and say that I believe that we led as best we can and our school district is in a really good place? Absolutely, I can.
I totally agree with what Bobby has to say. I was very proud of our district, and we had to pivot many times, our administration and our entire staff. Like I said, moved mountains to make sure that students were prepared and were able to stay in the classroom. I am very also proud of the fact that we created task force committees, and those task force committees had health service people in them. They had the community members in them. They were made up of many different individuals with many different roles in their own careers. And so we were able to hear from them and get recommendations from them. We enjoy local control. We gave our parents a choice, and not a lot of districts did give their parents a choice. And I continuously heard from other families in other communities and other districts that said, man, I wish we had the choice that you had given us in the Blue Springs School District. We are so envious. And so I am proud of our district. Yes, are there things that we could have done better? Yes, but they did a phenomenal job. And I just give them all the credit. So thank you.
Yeah, right. The technology gets all of us in the end. This next question goes first to Will Hecht. Since the bond issues and levy transfer votes were passed in 2018 and again in 2021, and many of those projects are underway or finished, what are the next 2 or 3 big things that need to be done?
Sorry, I was taking this. So, I mean, for the most part, I mean, we're gonna have to balance looking at kind of facilities that we have, the equipment that we have, making sure that we're kind of repairing and replacing kind of as we need, and then also looking at kind of what opportunities we have to be able to kind of further upgrade kind of other things. I mean, for instance, some of the pool is gonna be awesome whenever that's all done. The kind of new learning center and whatnot. Not necessarily something that someone might put on a list of things that need to get completed just for kind of general safety and comfort in buildings, but definitely something that is going to help the district kind of progress further. And so, I mean, as the projects that we have underway get done, I mean, we're just going to have to keep looking for those next opportunities to kind of further expand the possibilities that we can offer.
Since the question was asked about bond and levies, try to address both in 1 minute here. So future bond and levies, I think first of all, we have to look at the innovation center that we've mentioned. In this last bond, we did approve some money to get that started. I'm grateful for that. But for that to really continue to be the best that it can be for our community and to develop our students, we're going to have to continue to invest in that. Some of these programs will require really some build out, some different construction costs. We'll need to look at that when the time comes. Additionally, with the growth of our district, we do have land in certain spots on the north side, so there could be some future schools that need to be built, continuing to build classrooms. And then anytime we've done a bond or levy, we also need to talk to the community to see really what those needs are represented in their schools and their pockets. Now the levy, we've done transfers that's helped us increase staff, it's helped us hire additional staff. We just recently approved 54 new positions for the next 2 years that covers mental health, counselors, DPS officers in every building, additional administrative support. And so we may have to look at another levy transfer to continue to address needs like that. So I think hearing from the community, the Innovation Center, growth in classrooms, possibly buildings, and levy transfers, that's what we need to look at in the future.
I would say with the housing developments that are being created, we might need to look at some new elementary schools. Cordell Mason is, pretty maxed out at this point in time. There's a lot of building out south. There's a lot of building up north. So as Bobby said, we do acquire land and have that. Career and Innovation Center will take some additional work on that. Also, I'm grateful for our community that supports our levy transfers. It's not an increase in taxes for you, but it allows us to move that money from debt service to operating. And our school resource officers that we are in need, we want to add a few more resource officers for all of our buildings so that they're all covered. And that also helps us with that levy transfer to be able to fund those positions. And I just love the fact that Blue Springs School District keeps growing and people want us to be, want their students to be educated through our district. And we'll just keep moving forward. And I think I'm way over my time.
Not a whole lot to add. I think everybody covered everything. I think as the community continues to grow, eventually we're going to need to add more facilities, right? We've got to keep our class sizes down, and eventually down the line we will need more elementary schools and possibly another high school. In regards to the levy transfers, I 100% support all the additional staff hirings that we've done. 100% support it. I think we'll have to keep an eye on the property tax revenue coming in. Some of the assumptions that we made, they're good assumptions, you have to look at when you do financial modeling. If our property tax assessments don't go up as much as we had originally made in our assumption, we may have operating revenue shortfalls. That's a possibility. Not saying it's gonna happen, hopefully it doesn't, but we all know what happened last time property tax assessments went up, didn't go over very well. So if that potentially happens, there may need to be a levy transfer a little sooner than later.
We're back to the top of the lineup, so this question goes first to Bobby Hawk. Do you think better partnerships with parents are needed for their children's or their child or children's education? If so, how would you encourage that?
Do I think better partnerships are needed? I mean, I think we always need to partner with parents. I think what we have to do is we have to assess what's the question that the parent has. So in educational pathways, partnering with parents may look different at an elementary level than a high school level. We've hired interventionists to help with some of the educational gaps. So if you're referring to a parent partnering in an educational situation, it's that. When it comes to mental health, that's a whole different conversation. We've got to find ways to partner to make sure that our students are being resourced. When it comes to communication with parents, if that fits under the term partnership, I think we can always work at better communication. But I think communication is two-way, and a lot of times parents want to circumnavigate maybe the process that's there. They should always go to a teacher first, then a building administrator, then central office before they go to the board. So when we talk about communication transparency, if that falls under partnership with parents, I think we have to be careful that we don't take the system that we have that works and try to tear that down and rebuild it from the bottom up. But always partnering with parents is going to be the best way to make sure that the kids are successful.
Partnering with parents is how I started. So it's near and dear to my heart because I was a parent that wanted to be involved. And there were many avenues for me to do that. And there still are. There's a lot of avenues for parents to be involved in their child's school, in the building, in a volunteer manner. And when you get involved like that, you build relationships. And when you build relationships with teachers and staff and other individuals that have an impact on your students, it's so much easier just to pick up the phone and communicate with them. And so there are many avenues in that way. Now, I've heard the word transparency a lot on social media, and that the district's not as transparent as they should be in certain cases. In a lot of cases, we're not able to because of privacy laws. And so the public also needs to understand that maybe sometimes if they don't hear from us in a certain situation and how it was rectified, then that's because we cannot share that information. But I encourage every parent to be involved. Call up your local school that your student's in and say, how can I help?
So I see the board member's role as really being a link between the district and the community. So as far as partnering with parents, I would say if parents have certain issues that they don't feel are being met or addressed by the district, and they've gone through the process of speaking with the teachers, speaking with the administration, they should have, and they should feel very comfortable with going to our board to bring those issues up. And if we see a trend of issues, the same issue coming up time and time again, then I feel our board should address it. We need to look into how we're administering our policies and seeing if those policies are effectively working at resolving the issues that are affecting our students and our parents as well as our teachers.
I think that a lot of the issues that parents have come up and talked to me about have been more kind of in regard to kind of an incomplete kind of understanding of kind of how some of these things kind of are supposed to work or are kind of working. And that's not a parent fault. That's a kind of a communication issue. I know that, I mean, in kind of my own personal experience, sometimes in situations where I don't feel like there's kind of as strong a partnership as there should be, Sometimes it's, like I said, just due to some kind of misunderstanding, some lack of understanding. I mean, maybe parents don't know about how kind of due to privacy laws, we're not able to say certain things. And so then instead of kind of telling them that, hey, we just can't say that, we just don't say anything at all. And so I think that's what causes a lot of frustration. So making sure that we're kind of communicating the kind of why of some of the decisions is definitely important.
This next question goes first to Rhonda Gilstrap. Aside from raising your own children, how have you committed your time and your resources to supporting, encouraging, and positively impacting local youth?
Well, I covered some of that in my opening statement, but one of my all-time favorite and closest to my heart is I work with students, and I've worked with them for years through our student ministry in our church. And I've had the ability to build relationships with so many teenagers through the years. And I tell you, one of the best things that could ever happen is when you've built a relationship with a student, and then as a board member, you have the opportunity to hand them their diploma and give them a hug. And that's the greatest gift ever. And that's my reward in that. But I have absolutely loved working with students throughout our student ministry through the years. I have, in turn, so many of those students have grown, and I've had the chance to mentor them as leaders now. Young leaders in our student ministry that go out into the community too as well and serve. So very near and dear to my heart. Thank you.
We had a similar question the other day at another forum, and I would say my wife and I are a team. And she agrees, yeah. So she right now is carrying the ball for our family, working on the executive board of the Chapel Lakes PTA. And any PTA parent can tell you that takes up quite a bit of time. Other than that, I love volunteering my time back when we were doing trunk or treats, going all out, making the craziest trunk or treat float I could, volunteering at the field day events. And then prior to our kids being born, which takes quite a bit of time, I was a volunteer wrestling coach, not in the Blue Springs School District, but in the Raytown School District. So I loved it, loved working with the kids, loved seeing them grow, develop. I'm a huge advocate for athletics, and that's it.
So yeah, besides kind of my own kids, I mean, like I said, I have 4 kids, so there's only so much time. My wife and I mean, much like what kind of Nick just said, my wife and I are kind of a team, and we have to end up kind of playing to our strengths and whatnot. My wife is incredibly crafty. She's very kind of imaginative, and she loves being able to go and kind of volunteer at the schools at different functions when she's able to. Unfortunately, if she's there, then most of the time it means that someone else needs to stay at home and watch the kids, and so most of the time that's me. Before I was an accountant, I was actually a trainer with sports performance, with personal training. Near the end, I was focusing a lot on youth sports. And so I really enjoyed kind of working with the youth athletes, both just kind of teaching them about training, proper nutrition, that kind of thing. But then also gaining their trust, and so that whenever they kind of needed to have someone to talk to, they were able to come to me, and we could talk about whatever they needed to. And so being able to build those relationships was incredibly rewarding.
Well, I love the question. I think that some of the best board members for local school districts were highly involved with their time and resources prior to ever serving on the actual school board. I think that's oftentimes how the passion continues to develop. For me, had an opportunity back in 2006, prior to my daughter even being in school at the time, to start partnering with William Yates Elementary, the school that I had attended as a kid, just as a way to give back or maybe apologize. And from leadership days to carnivals to trunk or treats to some of the extra things we're able to do with our time, and then investing with our resources, we begin to support that school, begin to provide school supplies for their kindergartners, which led to providing school supplies for all of the kindergartners in the school district, which we've continued to do each year, as well as Liggett Trail Education Center. That spawned into an additional support. We said if we want to catch them on the way in, let's catch them on the way out. And so we started giving out scholarships to students, and between school supplies and students, we'll be able to invest about $40,000 this year back into our kids. So I think service starts before service on the board actually starts. It's been a privilege to invest my time and resources, and I plan to continue to do that, whether I'm on the board or not.
This next question kicks off first, excuse me, with Nick, please. How would you be able to recognize whether elements of critical race theory were being taught in the Blue Springs School District?
So, critical race theory is a theory taught in law school. It will never be appropriate for the K through 12 curriculum, and it is being used as a buzzword. It's harmful, and I think it will eventually hurt the progress that we are making on equity and inclusion in our district. I applaud our district for creating the DEI team. I applaud what we've done, the progress we've tried to make, and the progress we will continue to make. But I think as a district, we need to educate the community because there is so much misinformation out there. There is so much anger and confusion that people are trying to spread, and it's damaging to our public education system. We need to defend our teachers, and we need to really take the time, I think, as leaders to explain to the community, because a lot of people aren't going to understand it. They hear, this is going on, that's going on. Let's sit down, and if you have a question about, is CRT being taught in our school, please talk to your teacher. They will explain it to you, I guarantee it. If not, talk to the administration. As a community, I think we need to stop the spread of misinformation.
Definitely. Misinformation, kind of misunderstandings. I think that CRT has kind of become, a buzzword that a lot of people just kind of hear and they think a whole bunch of different things. As far as I know, there's no CRT curriculum. CRT is kind of very kind of basic level is just looking at things with a little bit more of an open mind, just to see if there's a different outcome from what we originally saw. But it is not a class. It's not just kind of one book. It's not just kind of one kind of insidious idea that people try and kind of slip in there. And so whenever I've talked to people about their fears of CRT infiltrating our school district, we've not really been able to sit there and actually point a finger at a specific thing. It's more just the general concept of kind of what they're afraid of. And I think a lot of that's just due to a lack of information and a misunderstanding of what it is.
I've addressed several topics like this on my videos on Fridays, so in 1 minute I'll try to summarize what I've shared in much more time. But if we're going to listen to the community, we have to listen to the community. We don't get to pick and choose what we listen to. The concern about CRT, I don't think is about a college level course. I think it's about, are we going to make one group feel bad so that another group of students feel good? As I continue to talk to people, that's really what they're asking. Yes, it's getting labeled CRT, and no, we don't want to take away our diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that are not CRT just because people might mislabel them. But we do have to understand that there's concerns that if in our education system that one group is going to feel bad so another group feels good, well, that's not actually diversity and inclusion. Our goal as educators is to make every group feel good. That's diversity and inclusion. Sometimes that's all it takes, is just taking the time to sit down and explain the difference The question was also about what do we watch out for. I think it comes down to that. We watch out to make sure that nothing we do in the education system in Blue Springs makes one group feel bad so another group feels good. We want all kids to feel good about their education.
I would ditto what he just said in a lot of respects. I would add that CRT is not a part of the Missouri Learning Standards, and it's not a part of our curriculum. Now, if there's a concern that if a student comes home and says, Mom, Dad, this is what was said in the classroom, I would certainly hope that that parent would take the time to reach out, and they can reach out to a board member, they can reach out to, first of all, we'd hope they'd reach out to their teacher and do the chain of command like we talked about earlier. But I also want to add just one more thing in the diversity, equity, inclusion area that we created. I don't know if you realize that we in the Blue Springs School District teach 44 different languages. There are so many diverse individuals in our school district that require different learning skills. And so diversity doesn't just include that. It includes dyslexia, those different languages that are needing to be learned, and our special education, that's part of that too. So it is our hope that, you know, as parents want to be involved and are wanting that information that they need, that they would volunteer their opinions to us and to their staff at their school. But we'll go from there. So. I don't know who's next.
Well, we're coming around to closing statements.
Okay.
Mr. Hecht, I want to point out that the candidates have done a pretty good job of trying to stay pretty close to 1 minute on some complex issues. We've covered a fair amount of ground. People have gone over a little bit, but nobody's had to be gonged off the stage. I think that's to the credit of the, that's an old reference, isn't it? That's the credit of the candidates. That's it, right. So we'll have 1 minute closing statements from each candidate before we take a break. We'll stick with the same order. Mr. Hecht, you are up first.
Awesome. Okay, so, I mean, again, my name is Will Hecht. I'm seeking a spot on the Board of Education. Throughout this process, talking to kind of a number of different parents, teachers, there have definitely been times where we don't agree on a certain topic. And that's fine. Especially, I mean, Blue Springs is one of the largest districts in Missouri. I mean, we have so many people, and obviously everyone's going to have kind of different views, different experiences, different opinions. The one thing that I really kind of hope that everyone can more focus on is kind of the process of coming to some of these conclusions, the process of kind of making some of these decisions, making sure that people keep in mind that the people making these decisions, I mean, they affect so many different people. And so, I mean, there's always going to be someone that kind of isn't necessarily happy about it. And so you still want to make sure that everyone feels heard, feels kind of appreciated, and feels understood. And then that we're able to communicate with them that, I mean, it's for kind of the good of the district kind of thing.
Everything we do as a team. And if you elect me to the school board, I'll be one of 7 board members to make up a team. That's a team that works with administration, teachers, staff, so that your students and those of you that don't have students, the school district can continue to impact this community in a positive way. So I'll sum up 4 things that I would make a priority because they're all team priorities that we've embraced. Simply, the T would be teachers and staff. We have to make sure that we focus on retention and recruitment. It's important to make sure we're taking care of our teachers and staff and retention, but also continuing to recruit. The E would be educational pathways. We touched on that with innovation. That's exciting. We also have to continue to focus on intervention to make sure that we're closing the gaps for any of our students, especially due to the pandemic. The A is allocation of resources. That's what boards focus on, budgets and bonds, and how do we make the most of our budget. 80% of our budget goes to people right now. We have to take care of our people. We also have to make sure that we're planning for the futures we've discussed earlier. And last is mental health. We haven't been able to touch on that much today, but I certainly think part 2 of the pandemic is mental health. We want to make sure that we have the support in place We're adding some of those for our students and our staff. We're a team. If we'll focus on those things, we'll continue to be able to lead Blue Springs in a way that makes it the best school district on this side of the state. Thank you.
All right, well, as we conclude, I'd like to take this moment to again thank the examiner and the chamber and the fire district for hosting and providing this opportunity. Our district continues to blaze a trail and be a shining example to so many others locally and throughout the entire state. Just as our administration and entire staff work diligently to ensure all students persevere and they reach excellence, we thank you for being a supportive community as we navigated through the past 2+ years. Our school district is better when the community as a whole is engaged. And I want to assure you that my commitment to the Blue Springs School District will never waver. And I hope that the proven leadership that our board provided through an extremely difficult time can continue into the future. So I humbly ask for your support and for your vote on April 5th. And thank you so much for the opportunity to serve you.
Well, thank you to everybody who came out today as well, Chamber of Commerce and the Examiner. I'm hoping there's enough information on every candidate. We've answered many questions, we've sat through many forums, and we filled out multiple questionnaires to where every individual in our district can make the best decision for their families and themselves on April 5th. We moved to the district 9 years ago when my daughter was 1 year old because we wanted our kids to grow up in the Blue Springs School District, and that was the right decision. We love the district. It's a fantastic district, but I do think we can improve. And I think those improvements start when we create more direct lines of communication with the parents, the teachers, and the students of our district. I think if we change our leadership style from one of those of command and control, where we know best, do what we say, to one of communication and collaboration where we actively seek the input of our teachers, of our parents, and of our students, that we can rise to be the best district in the state and ultimately solve all the issues that our students and our parents have. Thank you.
So a round of applause for our candidates. You can all exhale. I want to thank all 4 of you for coming today, spending some time with us, holding yourselves out for office and doing all that hard work. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. We'll get ready with the city council candidates if those folks want to make their way down here. We'll see you in a few. Thank you.
City council, you guys need to take a note on timing. Just saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just kidding. I was just getting
I was like, we cannot stop
Good job, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was rolling for
They need to give you better guidance. Jeff, you're doing great.
That's always the best part.
Yeah.
We'll see you around. We'll be out. I'm gonna go so.
Are the school board members coming back to answer the questions, or are they gone? They're done for the day? They already, most of them are, last one's right there, so it's all right. The questions we all wrote down, are they gonna answer them?
Everybody have enough cards so you can and it didn't really
To say the least.
someone else does like I don't
Yeah, sure. What's that? I can't say. Oh, well, that's bad timing.
hanging out.
There's a file.
Good, I'm excited. I'm excited about it. Well, that was the last time I was there. Yeah. Always. But yeah, no, I'm glad that and I was glad that I got it. I know.
I brought you up there.
We all made it. They were just tight. Yeah, well, and the thing is, my district is going to be next year, so we're nice to see.
I saw my sister.
Did she say, oh, I was okay, guy?
Oh, yeah.
And so it was just funny that we all, she was like, oh, yeah, my God. And I was like, I do. You got brought up and then she it was funny.
It's really funny because you'll be She said she started here 2 years ago.
We good? Okay. What's the visual for standby? We're working on it.
Yes, of course.
Good? Hi, folks. Welcome back. I don't have a gavel to bang and tell everybody to, get it together. So we are back for the second part of this evening's Candidates Forum, presented by the Blue Springs Chamber of Commerce. We're here at the CJC Training Headquarters in Blue Springs. I'm Jeff Fox with the Examiner. We're going to go next to City Council candidates. Let me reintroduce them for folks who might be tuning in. In District 1, Dr. Galen Erickson is unopposed for another term. In District 2, Anthony Vigliaturo is running, as is incumbent Chris Levisay. And in District 3, We have two candidates on the ballot, Taylor Ballard and Susan Culpepper. We're going to use the same format we used earlier. We'll have each candidate, and I've got them sitting in the order that we'll have them speak, and we drew for that randomly earlier. We're going to have each candidate give a 2-minute opening comments that will dive into your questions, 1 minute response to that, and we'll go as far as we can. You're up.
Hello, my name is Anthony Vigliatoro. I've been a lifelong resident of the city outside of about 4 years after high school. I've spent my entire life living essentially in this district here. I've raised 2 children, both of whom have graduated from Blue Springs High School, the last of which in 2021. I've spent the majority of my life in direct public service and law enforcement, starting in 1999. In 2017, I made a change and entered the private sector, working for a nationwide third-party insurance claims and investigation company, where I currently work there now as a litigation manager, handling all kinds of wonderful, boring stuff all over the country. Most of my stuff is outside of the state of Missouri. Outside of my law enforcement experience dealing with that, I spent time as a youth coach and scoutmaster for my children, volunteering for football, basketball, baseball, scouts, and so on. I've been married to my lovely wife, who's here supporting me, for 20 years next month. And one of the reasons that I'm doing this is the last 2 years has taught me that you can't wait for somebody to do something for you that you want done. For far too long, people have sat around and just griped on Facebook, which doesn't do any good. Lord knows I do enough of that, but nobody's willing to stand up and do stuff. So I decided to put myself out there and do it. The local elections are the most important because they have the most direct impact on your day-to-day business and life, and too many people forget about those. So my goal is to get elected and represent the citizens of District 2 the best I can. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I want to first thank the Examiner and the Chamber and CJC for hosting this. It's nice to have an opportunity to let people get to know you a little bit. My name is Susan Culpepper. I have lived in Blue Springs for a little over 40 years. I have a son who graduated from Blue Springs South High School. And it's because I've been here so long, I've had the opportunity to get involved in a lot of different organizations in this community. I am on the board of directors for St. Mary's Hospital. I'm on the board of directors for the Downtown Alive. I'm also involved in the Women Endowing Education, Habitat for Humanity, CSL, and my little favorite, Girls on Fire. And a lot of other organizations. And by doing that, I have the opportunity to talk to a lot of people and see what is going on in the community, what the needs are in our community. How do we make it better? What are people looking for? One of the things that I think is very important when we look at what we're going to do going into the future, I have I'll call it a three-prong approach. I believe that the streets and infrastructure are vitally important. So is public safety and economic development. And you have to have all three of those things. In the not too distant past, I passed and initiated an ordinance to increase our street budget by $3 million. We are reevaluating also the salaries of our city employees so that we can be competitive. And we are, I lost my train of thought looking at the door. But we have so many things that are important to this community, and we want to make sure that we cover those things. So I appreciate your attention to all of these things, and I hope that I can serve you again.
Hi, I'm Taylor Beller. I have only lived in Blue Springs about 4 years. How does that make me qualified to be here? Well, we chose Blue Springs very specifically for very specific reasons, because this is the community that I wanted to raise my 2 kids in. We chose it we looked at Lee Summit, we looked at Green Valley, we looked up north, but this is where we wanted to be. And as I've been in this community and I've started to get involved, I'm on the Public Art Commission, which I think is a phenomenal thing that's different in our community that we have. It's been nice to see some of the things that we have, but I can also see some of the things that we're lacking. We have so many great things to offer in Blue Springs, so many great community events, so many great community things going on that nobody knows are happening because we are behind the times in a lot of different ways. So how can we push our community forward? I don't want our community to be like the Lee Summit. I've heard that so many times. We're not Lee Summit, we're better. And so what can we continue to do as a council to push forward our small businesses? How do we continue to support our police officers and the safety of the community, but ensuring that they have the best training and everything that they need to continue to make our community better? Like I said, I have 2 kiddos here in this district. I am married. I've been married for 20 years to the same guy that I met in college. And I just really hope to bring some diversity to the council and just continuing to have the council to look like our community around us.
Hey, good evening. I guess it's evening. Thank you, Jerry. Anyway, thank you, all of you, for coming in the district and the examiner and all the rest of the candidates. I'm Galen Erickson. I've been in Blue Springs for a long time, since '76. I've been your city council member, or one of the 2 city council members from District 1 the last 3 years. I do not have an opponent. I'm not going to talk long at all. Hopefully we can yield some of that extra time to the red, whatever you call that, the stop button there. But I will promise, and one thing that I've taken pride in is listening to everyone and answering everyone's questions as best I possibly could. I plan to continue to do that because I don't have opposition right now. It's easier to keep my job going straight forward. And with that, I'm going to yield to you guys. But thank you, and I do appreciate your vote on the 5th.
Hi, my name is Chris Levisay. I'm running for District 2 for re-election for District 2. To tell you a little about myself first, I've grown up in Blue Springs since I was in elementary school. I've stayed involved as my kids have entered the school district as well. I have a 1st and 3rd grader at James Walker, so I'm PTA president and on the Blue Springs Education Foundation and trying to make sure I stay involved as they grow up in this community. I'm the incumbent in this election, so I have kind of 2 jobs. I have to both answer for what I've been doing and then also justify what I want to do moving forward. I don't know if all of you realize how long you've put up with me in this community for a while, but I go all the way back to when I was first elected. The biggest complaint in District 2 was Chapel Road and how poorly it was, traffic flow, how difficult it was to travel. And so starting way back with I remember we did the ribbon cutting, standing in the Pizza Hut parking lot as we watched the diverging diamond interchange and wondered if people were going to run into each other as they started that new thing. And so I want to carry some of those things that we've done well in the last year. I don't want to steal Councilmember Culpepper's thunder, but as she said, due to some of her leadership with $3 million extra dollars, and Councilmember Edmondson, we put $6 million into streets and roads construction this year. We have done a lot to improve pay and benefits for our city employees, making them more reasonable for our surrounding communities. But I think we still have work to do in District 2 to improve some of our infrastructure. We have a big need for an east-west corridor, and Councilmember Edmondson and I have really talked about making Walnut Street that corridor to bring it up to where we can travel it better. We have needs for stormwater with being in the older parts of town with District 2. And then all the redevelopment is happening in District 2 right now. All those good things that you see, businesses that used to be eyesores now becoming something new. I think that's a big thing we need to work on moving forward as well. So I would appreciate your vote on April 5th.
All right, thank you, candidates, for your opening remarks, and we will now move into the next phase of this evening's forum, that being the question and answer period. This portion will last until about 5:45, so we've got about a half an hour to kick things around in Blue Springs. Any questions submitted should be posed to all questions, and we have several that I'll be drawing from already that were submitted in advance by chamber members. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the question. Audience members, if you have questions, please write them on the, I think there are cards out there. Write them on the cards and pass them to the end of the row, and they can send them down to the front. We'll stay with the same order, but we'll have a different starter every time. This question first goes to Susan Culpepper. And the question is this: with more and more items being ordered online, there has been a decrease in the amount of sales tax revenue collected by the cities. Since sales tax is a large portion of funding for cities, some have opted to pass a local use tax. Do you support a use tax for Blue Springs? Why or why not?
I absolutely support a use tax for Blue Springs. What I find interesting is people use the word use tax, but it's just a sales tax that was already voted in, and we're not collecting it. The voters have said that they approved the sales tax years ago, but we're not getting any of that money because the state has elected to put the term use tax on it. So what's happening is all these people, and myself included, who are ordering online, we're not getting that share of the sales tax that this city deserves. And it's costing us about $1 million a year. And we have so many things that we could take that money and use. My thoughts on it are it would go 100% to street. That is where that money belongs. So yes, I support it.
I'm going to have to agree with Susan on this one. I've done a lot of reading on use tax. I definitely order lots of things online, and I know that my taxes are not going back into my community. And maybe if we had the use tax going on, maybe people would go out into the community instead of just quickly ordering things online and shop a little more local for some things. Maybe think twice about if I'm going to pay the tax anyways. Maybe I will go down and get my gifts from the stores that we have that are here by local people. I agree. I know Mayor Ross is in the same agreement that we need that money in our community. And Susan is right that we have already said that we would pay that, and now because of the state of Missouri, we are not paying that to the community like we should.
Simply put, I absolutely, totally agree. I do understand that a lot of citizens don't want to pay that extra tax. They can buy it cheaper sitting at their desk. I get that, but I look at it like an equalization tax where you buy it online, you pay the same amount of taxes you can buy it at Office Depot. And we also can celebrate the fact that Amazon and UPS and the other online delivery services can assist us with the use of the streets. So I absolutely agree.
Well, I'm unfortunately going to be a little different on this one and disagree. I'm not completely sold on the use tax yet, and here's where I make the distinction between the sales tax. The biggest selling point with the sales tax that we often hear when we have the parks tax and the public safety is that when people from Odessa and Great Valley, they buy stuff at Walmart, they buy stuff somewhere, they're helping pay for our services. They're helping pay for our parks. Well, the use tax is more like a property tax. It will only be assessed on the people who have a Blue Springs address. So it's something we would be putting on ourselves that only we would pay. And the difference is that's not being collected now. It's not like the federal government where that money's out there and it's going to go somewhere, so we might as well keep it ourselves. This just will remain uncollected. I'm also a realist, though. I realize we're not going to go anywhere. Online purchases are going to continue, and their citizen survey shows that people may be more supportive of it if we do it like something Susan's suggesting, particularly to streets. So maybe the play is to let the voters, have their say and have the election. But I'm going to need some convincing to see the particular language of what we propose before I'm going to blindly just support a use tax.
I'm actually going to be with Chris on this one. I do not support another tax. There are way too many taxes that us citizens pay on anything and everything we do. Adding another tax so that we can spend it on more on roads or services, there's enough money in these coffers that is wasted on things. Adding more to it is not the answer. We need to be better in our fiscal spending and be more responsible in our spending, and that money that we have can be used better. it'd be very hard to find me to support any new tax that's out there. I'm just opposed to it completely, so.
This question goes first to Taylor Bellin. Some people think that opening a business in Blue Springs is time-consuming and expensive. Do you agree or disagree with that? And if you agree with that, what if anything needs to be done to change that situation?
I don't know that opening a business in Blue Springs is any more time-consuming or expensive than it is anywhere else. It probably feels that way to the person that is opening it. I think that we just need to continue to support our small business owners, give them the resources that they need to be successful in that, and then continue to seek understanding as to why the community feels that way. Obviously, there are feelings towards that way, so where are they coming from? What is it that they are asking for or that they need, that they feel would help make the process easier for them or less expensive? And then how do we continue to support them so that when they put the money in to create a small business, they are being supported by the community and can continue to thrive here in Blue Springs?
I have to agree with you, Taylor, on that as well, but obviously the question was asked most likely because somebody has an issue. I'd like to know what that issue is. I do think that we have a very fluid process within the community and within the city to be able to work with small businesses and new business owners. So I don't understand the source of the question. I don't think it's an issue, being a business owner for many years. And I'll pass this on, but thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a dichotomy that always happens here with this question because we hear it anecdotally from some particular individuals, or maybe there's just a statement in the community that for some reason it's difficult to open a business. But then we get our surveys back from our business owners and our developers, and they're 70, 80% happy with the process. And so I agree with Councilmember Erickson. I'm a policymaker, and if there's a problem, I want to know what it is, and nobody has yet pinpointed something that we need to change in order to make the process simpler. We're always reevaluating. Just Monday at the council meeting, we made a change in our codes that allows for a conditional use permit instead of a rezoning to make it simpler for contractors who have that type of business. And so we're always looking and always evaluating, but until I have a particular policy that somebody can communicate to me that needs to be changed, it's difficult for us to really take action specifically on anything. Supporting our businesses is the best way to make that happen.
I have never opened or tried to start a business, so I have zero firsthand experience on what would be hard or difficult or expensive compared to any other cities around. I know that there would be a major difference between the practical application of doing it and how easy it shows to be on paper. And as long as the city and the departments within the city that are involved in that continue to work with the business owner or prospective business owner so that it can go smoothly, that would be the best overall environment that there could be. From my knowledge of how things go in this city, it really doesn't appear to be too hard for people to open up a business, whether it's a storefront or a business out of their home. But I, like everyone else, would like to know what the specifics behind the question would be so that they could get a better answer to their specific point and concern.
I agree that we need to know why a person is having difficulty opening a business. We, years ago, put together a book, a pamphlet, How to Do Biz, and it's available, and it goes start to finish. How do you start a business? What are your steps? What's the first thing to do? What do you have to do about zoning? What do you have to do about permits? What do you have to do about utilities? It's a very comprehensive piece of information. So I don't know what the source of the issue might be. I know that everyone on the council is very business friendly. We want businesses here. We are very pro-business. And so if a person has an issue, the phone is always open. And I would hope that a person would contact the city, and or if they can't get the answer, to contact one of us on council.
This question will go first to Galen Erickson. Currently, there are streets in Blue Springs that do not have sidewalks. Additionally, not all the sidewalks in Blue Springs are connected. Do you think this will ever happen? And if so, when?
Will it ever happen, and if so, when?
That's the question.
I'll put it this way, I believe that every sidewalk ought to go someplace. Sidewalks to nowhere should not exist. When I first came to Blue Springs in 1976, I was an advocate of bike trails, walking trails, and they ought to go. We have problems on the west side of town with Duncan Road. Part of it's county, part of it's not county. We have a nice trail there, and it stops, and you're in imminent danger of death if you don't have that. So I don't know when it'll happen. I've been here 40 years and it hasn't happened since. But I can guarantee you that I am totally in favor of no sidewalks to nowhere.
Is that a campaign promise? Well, I guess to answer the question specifically, I'm an optimist, so I think it will happen. When will it happen is when we have funding to make it happen. We're putting in sidewalks from I-70 to Pink Hill currently, and that was largely due to a grant that we received and matched. And so it's always a question of where's the money going to come from. I'm fortunate that I've been around long enough when we started the sidewalk program. When I was first elected, sidewalks were the responsibility of the homeowner for them to, just like their driveway in front of their house. And with the agreement of the whole council, we made that to where the city has that responsibility, which they were likely doing anyway. We put some money into it. We've had the first sidewalk program ever in the last 10 years to start addressing some of those needs. So the next step is, where can we find some funding? Maybe the use tax is that. Maybe it's better put in sidewalks, because right now we're spending $6 million on streets and we're getting 20 miles. 500,000 to $1 million for the use tax, not going to have a big dent on that, but it would on sidewalks. So we got to find the money.
I would agree. It comes down to where you want to allocate the money to go to it. I would love for the sidewalks. And the area in which I live in Kings Ridge, raising my kids, I had to either walk through people's yard or cross busy Valley View Road to go from the sidewalk that runs on my street to the sidewalk across the street to make it to Valley View Park. I would love for them to go everywhere, but as a realist, I know it takes the money to do that. And sometimes that money is better spent in things that aren't as nice and public, like roads and sewers. People do drive more than they walk. It'd be nice if they walked and biked more, but it really comes down to the realistic aspect of there has to be the money for it, and it has to be a priority for the people to do it.
I agree, it's a financial issue. We have, in recent years, required any new developments to put in sidewalks. So most of the issues with sidewalks to nowhere are from areas that have been developed some time back, and we had different rules and regulations, if you will, to get those sidewalks put in. So now it's a matter of finding the funding. We can't just manufacture money, and there's a lot of issues that we have to deal with our budget. So that's where we come down to, is a budget issue.
Chris stole my joke. I was going to say, we can use that use tax for those sidewalks that we have. I'm fortunate enough to live, obviously, in District 3, the south side, and I live in a newer neighborhood, and we have sidewalks. Where I used to live, we did not, and it makes such a huge difference with your kids being outside, being able to ride their bikes. And so I understand the desire to have sidewalks to somewhere, but again, it has to do with finding where do we want to allocate that, and what's most important, and what the priorities are to our community. And so if that's what the community wants, we can listen and go that way. But if roads and sewers are more important, or something else is more important, then we need to go in the direction of our constituents.
Well, this next question goes first to Chris Levisay. What, if any, are your thoughts about current crime issues in Blue Springs?
Well, I think our police officers do a great job. Just like everybody else, we're experiencing shortfalls. I think last I heard we were 14 officers short than what's at full capacity, full funding. You guys maybe saw in the news recently, there's a team of break-ins happening in Grandview, and I think 40 break-ins in Grandview and 16 over the park last night. So it's not a particular community that's having this issue. I think what needs to happen is continue to support our officers. We started, Councilmember Kaler pushed for us to have cameras in parks, and that's something that we're looking at currently. That's if you've seen the information on the internet connectivity with the school district. That's part of that project, is making sure we have the ability to maybe connect some of those things. So we have to just continue to stay vigilant, continue to support what our officers are doing, and continue to find new innovative ways to hopefully be prepared for some of those things.
Blue Springs, I think, is very unique in a lot of the area where we have a tremendous support with our citizens and our police department. And I think we have an excellent police department with Chief Munns and his people doing a great job. They are out there, they're visible, they're approachable. If you need something, they're there for you, whether you call them on the phone or they come to your house for anything that you need. But police in and of itself is reactionary. They do not, you can be as proactive as you want and try and be as visible as you want, but policing is reactionary. You're reacting to something that's happening after it happens generally. The best way to do that is to make sure that you have enough people on the roads to do it. Policing for eons it's been hard to get the people, especially now. Finding the people that are willing to do it and are capable of doing it at a high level is incredibly hard now with everything that's going on in just general society today. So, thank you.
We definitely have a shortage in our staff right now in our police department. But I think we need to also make sure that as residents we are vigilant. Pay attention. You know, I can remember years ago the saying was, if you see something, say something. We're really to that point also. But we need to make sure we continue to support our police. Our police offer a Citizens Police Academy, which is available, and it's a great education tool. And I would love to see more people involved in it. It gives you a better idea of what you're looking for and what to look to for support. So we need to get fully staffed on our police department because we do have an amazing staff.
So I was lucky enough to have a really good conversation with the Fraternal Order of Police. I'm a member of their team, and just talking through some of their struggles that they have with keeping staff and losing staff, losing officers to other communities because of the bonuses that they receive or the money that they get there. So just reevaluating what the cost of training is for someone, as opposed to getting someone that is already fully trained. Is there ways that we can offer better bonuses to keep those staff within the community? I agree that I think that sometimes our lovely social media makes it seem like there's so much crime happening when really maybe it's not as big as it seems. I do know that there are definitely crime all over the place. You can live in Overland Park, you can live in Independence, you can live in Green Valley, and it's the same issues over and over again. So how do we just continue to support the police to look at that and then look at what's really going on and not feed the monster of social media?
My turn? Were you pointing at me? Who's next?
Go ahead.
My next? Who's next? Okay, I'm sorry, everybody's pointing at me. Well, that takes up a lot of my time. Recently we had a small demonstration at the Public Safety Building, and I was incredibly proud of both the demonstrators. I wasn't at it, but I read about it and I saw some of it, and the community and the police force that brought an awareness and listened to the community. And I think that there's a concern about crime. My gosh, we all read the newspaper, we all read Facebook, and I don't think we can stop that. Community outreach to let people know what we do have. And the police department is understaffed right now. We've lost some officers to age retirement and to going other places, but I think there's a bright spot coming up. Chief Munns just the other day said maybe there's hope in a nice way, but every department around the city and the metropolitan area is short-staffed, so I commend our police for that. And sorry I stuttered at the beginning.
We are back to the beginning of the rotation, so this question goes first to Anthony Bigliaturo. What is the most important issue facing the city of Blue Springs right now, and what needs to be done?
For me, the most important issue is making sure we, as the city, take care of our older parts. I see lots of new development, and Chris even brought it up, that all the new development is taking place pretty much in District 2 right now, which is essentially the older part of the town. But I also see areas that could be, how should I say, very more welcoming than they are. Like 40 Highway, when you drive in from Independence, you come in from the trees and the valley, and then you come up to a used car lot and a Dollar General. And then you go down to a whole bunch of buildings that really haven't been changed since I remember growing up in the 80s over there. They're all the same. And I'm not saying it's bad to have those businesses there, but it would be nice that if we could take and get areas like that to make sure that they are staying up with the times and revitalize those areas as well, especially the ones that are completely public and, well, I'm getting the red stop sign, so.
Our citizen survey says it's streets, streets, and streets. And that's why we have such a push to get these streets done. When you drive down the road and your car goes in a 5-foot hole and you come out and your tires all bent up, we have a problem. And it is a very expensive proposition. It costs a lot of money, and we have a lot of miles of streets. So all of the citizens that have responded to the citizen survey, the vast majority said they want to see something done with our streets. It's a danger to school buses. It's a danger to people walking. So we need to address those.
When I've been out in the communities talking with people, a lot of the questions that I have been getting is in regards to multifamily homes, zoning. Where are we going to put all these new families that want to come in? Should we have affordable housing in Blue Springs? What school would they go to? I know on the school board they talked about we are definitely going to need some more schools. My kids are at Cordell Mason, my son is, and it is packed to the gills. And so as we talk about creating new spaces for families to move into Blue Springs, because I think Blue Springs is great and people want to live here, and how do we have affordable places for families to live that has the infrastructure and the schools to support that? And so I think that that is going to continue to be a big issue that is on people's minds as we go forward.
I would be remiss if I didn't say sidewalks, but to nowhere, well, on those, but streets, sidewalks, public safety, the parks, those are all things on the survey. One word that a good friend of mine used is ambiance. He said, Galen, just give me some ambiance, give me some quality of life. When I drive in off of I-70 and I go down 7 Highway, I see the median on 7 Highway. That's a small thing, but my gosh, it's a brickyard. I wish we had a representative from the state here. Maybe Dan could comment on that. But I think fixing those things is really, really, really important. So I'll just start with sidewalks and ambulance.
Well, I think the biggest problem that Blue Springs is addressing right now is a lack of proactivity. And I think that's everything you heard with these other candidates, whether you're talking about streets or being reactive to the citizen survey. If you're talking about police or being reactive to crime, if you're talking about growth or being reactive to somebody coming to us and saying we want to build this, rather than having an economic development manager or somebody like that seeking the type of businesses we want, or we're being reactive to problems with the state. We should be working with the state to try to have that relationship so they're responsive to us and the other way around. So how do we get there? It's just a leadership thing. It's something that's we're trying to provide. We're trying to find those areas where we can make an impact. I know every council member does that, and some of us have areas that we're concerned about more than others. But I think that's what we've been missing for a while, is that proactive approach across the board to try to make an impact in these problems that everybody's talking about.
This next question will go first to Susan Culpepper. After reviewing the 21-22 budget in brief report, It appears that an economic downturn could impact some revenue and expense items. How would you address any shortfalls?
Well, we've already talked about the use tax. Every year we review the budget, and sometimes we have to make some major shifts in funding. There's only so many dollars available. And so those dollars have to be scrutinized. We have to look at each thing that we spend our money on very, very carefully. Sometimes it's not the most popular thing to spend money on, but it's the necessary thing. Things like infrastructure you can't see, well, we still have to have it. It's a necessity. And so those things have to take some priorities sometimes. So it's a matter of looking at the budget and making wise decisions.
I would agree that it's like any budget that you have, that if there are shortfalls or something changes where there's not enough, how do you reallocate? How do you look to see that we're spending in the proper places? I think it's always good to stop and look at the budget, not just push things through, but to examine each piece and if it's the correct amount in the right place for the right time. And so you can always project, because that's what you're always doing. I know I work at a hospital and we're always projecting how sick patients are going to be and how long they're going to be in the hospital for and how many dollars we're going to have for the hospital. And you just have to project and guess. And sometimes things like COVID happens and your dollars are different. And so then how do you readjust to ensure that the city is running the best way that it can with the resources that they have? So that's why you have a council to look at that for you and to review those.
You said use tax, I would say that's for planning, but I'd just like to shout out to the administration. Our administration has provided an incredibly good budgeting process, and the council has worked together on it very, very well. We've had some disagreements about things, but we've come to a conclusion, and it's well done. I like to use a little term called disaster planning, so that you go, okay, if this happens, what are we going to do? Where are we going to get it? We do have quite a few funds in unassigned funds balances. Hopefully we'll never have to use those. There have been a lot of examples that economic downturn happens, but you go back to a couple years ago, the 4 cities in Texas when they had the freeze out. They didn't plan that. That wasn't an economic downturn. But I think that the city's well positioned to proceed ahead if we do have some downturns, and we do have the fortunate aspect of seeing the past graphs and how we've done it, and kudos to the staff.
Well, I know we had a couple of CPAs up here earlier, so no offense to them, but a budget is about more than numbers. A budget is a statement of priorities. That's essentially what it is. This is what we are planning to spend on in the next year. And so the simple answer to if we have a budget downturn is we follow the priorities. There are some things that we have no control over. We have to pay staff. We have 50% of our budget or more just goes into staff and to paying just operations. And so those things that are more discretionary, that's where we have some policy room to make what our priorities are. Councilman Erickson's right, we've disagreed in those priorities at times, but in the end, we're the same council that's working towards the same goals and trying to make those things happen. So if we have a downturn, we just evaluate the priorities, and what we can do, we will do.
One thing that's guaranteed is there's good times and there's bad times. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. And the proper planning to prepare for those lows and to mitigate them when the times are high is key. When we have the abundance of money, like we've had in our society here since around the last 4 or 5 years, we should be investing that into the dilapidated areas so that they don't break down when we can't afford it. And just like Chris said, it is about priorities. You have to put your priorities first. And if the downturn comes, you have to go and pay for the things that, quite frankly, nobody wants to really mess with until they get the pothole and they ruin the suspension on their car, the sidewalks, the sewers, the public safety. Those are the things that have to be taken care of. And unfortunately, the frill things go down. There's just no way to avoid that. And as long as you plan and prepare, you can mitigate the down as best you can.
We've been reading questions this evening that come in from chamber members and come in tonight. We have time for one more before we go to closing comments. We're going to start off with Taylor Beller. We'll go first, same order as we have been doing. With the state legislature pushing for city council and school boards to be run as partisan races, is that a good idea? Should the Blue Springs City Council have partisan city council races?
You know, I'm going to say I don't think so. I think it just further divides the community. A lot of the issues that are higher level issues that are partisan are not necessarily the ones that are day to day in our lives. And so when you start separating people out into different parties, then you start causing more strife. Whereas as we're nonpartisan now, you look at the person, you look at what they believe, what their goals are for the community, and a lot of the issues we deal with as a community are nonpartisan. And so if we put the spotlight on parties and dividing, we're just going to continue to divide the country, and we're in a spot right now where division seems to be the way to go, and that is really not where we should be at. So.
No, I do not believe they should be partisan elections. I think that the way to keep politics local is to keep it local and keep undue influences out of there. I just know we should not be partisan.
I don't really have anything to add. I agree. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat when you're filling a pothole, and those issues are not relevant to these national conversations that we're having. We don't deal with the hot topic issues on the city council. We're trying to make sure that everybody has a quality of life regardless of their party affiliation. And so it only would serve to create more strife than to create more unity in the community.
I agree with everybody. Partisan politics causes nothing but division. It has no place on the local level, and to be quite frankly, I'd like to see partisan politics go away all the way to the federal level and let people stand for their own beliefs. So that's all.
Well, I agree with everybody else up here. When you have people who are associated with one group or another, it creates divide. And I think anything that comes before an organization like the city council, every issue we look at should be considered on its own face value. Is it good for the community? Is it the best thing for Blue Springs? And if you get parties involved, you're not going to have that. So absolutely, I agree.
All right, we're going to come to closing statements now. As luck would have it, the first of our closing statements is from Galen Erickson, who's been the most brief of our speakers this evening.
Well,
1 minute. I'm nuts here.
I have 1 minute.
1 minute for each of you, please.
Okay, well, he took half of my minute.
There you go.
So I maybe had a little levity in here, but you got to have some of that. But I appreciate everybody. The last 3 years have been wonderful. I think they will continue to do so. I will try harder to work harder, and I think that can be done. But I do appreciate your vote. I thank you, everybody, for coming and the sponsors. So, April 5th.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've had some opportunity to be involved in the community for a long time now, and I plan to continue to do that in whatever role that is. And so I hope that we can continue to build on the good things we've been doing. We've been putting some focus in the things of the citizen survey and making sure the streets are taken care of, making sure our police officers are taken care of. And I think we can continue to do some of that work, but there's always room for improvement, always room to refocus and shift priorities as they come up. And so I hope to continue to do that, and I'd appreciate your vote on April 5th.
I want to thank everybody again for our letting us speak and provide our points of view on everything here. If you all do elect me on April 5th for the city council seat, my main point of emphasis will be making sure government sticks to its basics. Public safety, roads, sewers, sidewalks, blight, making sure that those things are taken care of before we spend any additional dollars on things that, while they may be nice, they're not part of the core tenets of a government. I don't have a lot more. Thank you.
Well, again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and thank our host. My experience as a planning commissioner and as a city councilman has given me a broad background in municipal government. My experience as an accountant and corporate controller has given me broad experience as far as budget and fiscal responsibilities. And I think these are two things that you need to have when you are sitting on a council. And this city is a phenomenal city. I love this city, and I have thoroughly appreciated all of the support that I've received over the years. I am always available. I answer every single email, every single phone call, and I would like the opportunity and your votes to allow me to continue to do that and work for you. Thank you.
Thank you guys all for coming, and thank you, host, for hosting us. I really appreciate this opportunity to showcase a little bit of what is important to our city. I feel like a lot of people don't realize how important city elections are. So I want to implore everybody to vote. School board is important, city council is important. I feel like my leadership experience through my career, I'm a director at the local children's hospital, has helped me to be able to be in difficult situations and to make decisions that are important that affect the community. And I think that those leadership qualities would make me a really great city council person. And so I would really appreciate your vote too on April 5th. I don't think we can say enough. April 5th, guys, April 5th. Get out, vote, April 5th. It's super important. I know when I was going door to door, I said, please just vote. Please get out and vote on April 5th. People don't come out in these elections, and they're so important to your day-to-day lives. So thank you again for your time.
Let's have a round of applause for our candidates. Thank you. In closing, I think I'm supposed to mention April 5th. We would like to thank all of the candidates for having me in this evening and this afternoon. School board candidates earlier, city council candidates this evening, and for participating and doing all the things that one does to engage the community, get out, knock on doors, and take part in that big community conversation that we have. It's a pretty lively exchange tonight, and we're glad that that's occurred. And in our view, the sponsors here, it's been a rewarding and enlightening experience. I want to again thank the Central Jackson County Fire Protection District for their hospitality, this very nice facility, and each of you for coming out today. I want to thank those who put all this together. Zoom, YouTube, they're all great, they're simple, they never go wrong, right? It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort to organize these things and to make it all happen. Those folks deserve thanks and applause as well. The Blue Springs Chamber and the Examiner encourage you to exercise your right and sacred privilege of voting on April 5th. Polls in our state are from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. and folks are already voting absentee. So get out and do your part. Thank you. Have a good evening. Good to meet you too.
That was a call from the Why would you make 18-year-old kids car?
Yeah.
You got called out. Yeah, was I? Who knows?
It's a tough job.
We usually convince him back into it.
See you later. Tell the people.
I think the argument
No, I was just taking notes. Like we were somebody.
Yeah, you know.
Take care, Jeff. Have a good night.
Hi, Jeff. How are you, Jeff?
Hello, Jeffrey. How you doing, brother?
Good. Do you need a quote?
Yeah.
I'm a man influence.
This way.
Yeah, I just didn't know.
You got kids coming. Yeah, what's his Yeah, everybody. He used to live down. He used to live down.
Oh, that's right. He was in.
And then he moved to Kansas to live in some.
Well, he's the kid.
Some place south.
You can use it or not. You make your sidewalk on either side.
Right.
I'll check out every car.
Nobody can take a quote.
Nobody around.
Yeah, I forgot to say big job.
Say Jack and all.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. Right. Right. What these?
Yes, I will read this. Somebody left their cushion.
But that's also one.
Really? You need a quote from me?
Yeah.
You never want a quote from me.
That is a good one.
No, my quote is they stole my thing. Everybody on the city council.
Yeah. I had like meetings all day today.
So what are you doing for second session?
Recently changed.
I'm sorry.
I think it's worse when
Not too late.